बच्चों, a very good evening and very warm welcome to today's session. Sat Sri Akal, Namaskar, Bonjour, Adab. I hope you guys are doing absolutely fine and amazingly well. Very warm welcome to another session of our chapter, the ever going long lasting chapter of the age of industrialization, where we are going to discuss in the fourth session of this chapter about the establishment of factories in India. So let's get started. We'll have a quick intro of the session, of the chapter, of the topics, but before that let me quickly introduce myself. Hi everyone, मेरा नाम अंकना है and I am your expert for social sciences at Embibe. As you can see, I've been associated with the education sector for more than 9 years now, wherein I've had the experience of teaching both online and offline to the students of CBSE and ICSE board, and I have done my education in the field of humanities, which helps me to specialize in English as well as social science. So that is a quick introduction. Now talking about the chapter. This entire chapter has been divided in the following topics of before the industrial revolution, hand labor, steam power, industrialization in colonies, peculiarities of the industrial growth in India, establishment of the factories in India, and strategies to sell goods during industrialization. Now in today's session, guys, we're going to talk about establishment of factories in India. Peculiarities we'll be doing after that. Once you understand how the industries have settled in, only then you can talk about what were the special characteristics, right? So, kaise the? In the previous session, we also discussed how colonization had happened, how the Britishers started controlling the trade over here in India. So, how did the industry set up? That we are going to focus on today. So, the concepts that we are going to cover under this is going to be how the initial factories were once finally the industrialization started happening in our country, who were the early entrepreneurs. Then we'll talk about European managing agencies of in Indian trade. Workers in the Indian factories will also understand who jobbers were, and urbanization in the 19th century Bombay. So let's get started with a quick recap. So in the previous session, we basically saw how the transition of the trade happened. So industrialization was happening worldwide, especially in the Western world, particularly like European powerful countries like France and Germany, England for sure, it was the leader of it, and US also had a huge role to play in it. But eventually, it did start coming and affecting other colonized countries like India and other Asian countries and African countries. India, the Britishers did not really want immediately to let any other competition, any other country take over in terms of taking the raw material. Or for that matter, they also did not want India to get established as an industrial power. So they wanted to control all the trade. So Indian textiles were dominating before industrialization, right? We have seen in the making of global world also that how India during the pre-modern and the beginning of modern period was the center of trade, right? Which started slowly with industrialization moving towards the Europe, towards the Western world. Armenian and Persian merchants used to play a very important role in this trade because Indian cotton, especially the textile and other materials also was very much high in demand throughout the world and was very famous. So these people used to come here and trade in these products, buy it from us and take it through the paths of sea as well as mountains and basically the road, the land with the help of the camels to different portions of Gulf and Central and Middle Asia and also to Europe eventually. European companies gained power, causing a decline in traditional Indian exports. So as soon as the East India came into the picture, our trade started declining because they started monopolizing everything, they started controlling everything. Then the East India Company controlled the weavers through the servants like Gumastas, which basically made their life very difficult. The weavers at one point even started running away from whatever they were producing. They were forced to problems like loss of freedom. They had no option because of the monopolization to negotiate with the prices, clashes, and then ultimately losing their land and migrating and running away to different places where they were not under the control of the Gumastas. Gumastas were representatives of Britishers who were basically, now they had removed all the traders, the Indian traders who were earlier contacting the weavers, doing all the trading, giving all the, you can say, the deals to them, the orders to them. Now all of that was being done by Gumastas on behalf of the Britishers. So they were very authoritarian. They did not used to consider the problems of weavers and very rude to them, punish them. So they started running away, and plus they were constantly caught under loans and revenues and a lot of issues. European companies grew their influence slowly more in India, especially East India Company particularly. They even eliminated all the competition which took away the power of negotiating the prices. And then Manchester was a place which started producing the cotton textile. They did not want India to be a competition over there because there was a certain difference in the quality that was being produced, but they definitely wanted to take everything under their hands, and they wanted only their products to be sold. So they started flooding all these products in India, and India was now not producing textile as such, but only providing the cotton raw materials. So the Manchester produced goods would flood the Indian markets, reduce the demand from Indian textiles. So that is what we have done in the previous session. Now let's get started with today's understanding of how industrialization came to India, how the changes happened, right? Hi Sujit Yadav, good evening. Hi Ruchita, I think someone else is also here. Who all do we have? Hi Sakshi, good evening Bache, very warm welcome to the session. Guys, why don't you go ahead and write something in the chat so that I can say hi back at you and acknowledge your presence in the session. Please also make sure to share the video with your friends. Let them know that we are talking about how industries started establishing in India, how industrialization started happening in India. Because till end of 19th century, almost till the end of 19th century, mid of 19th century, India was not really industrialized, right? Hi Agastya, welcome to the session. Ruchita, I'm absolutely fine. Bache, how are you? Okay, now welcome to Bombay Spinning and Weaving Company. So it sounds like an ad of the company, right? So this was the first successful cotton mill in India. So we did have a company which was established in the year of 1854. The very first one of its kind, right? Agastya, I'm absolutely fine. How are you? This was the first successful cotton mill, which was basically mechanical and not manual, or industrialized version. And it was established by Kovasji Nanabhai Devor in 1854. It marked the true foundation of the modern cotton industry in India. So we did have something as in terms to align and compete on the level, match the bar and the graph of the European industrial standards. By 1862, 4 cotton mills were at work. So from between like these 8 years, from 1854 to 62, you would see springing up of 4 more mills, 3 more mills, and also jute mills were being set up. That was around 1857, I think, in Bengal. After Bombay and Bengal, the first spinning and weaving mill was also set up in Madras, which was in 1874 for production. Okay? Now, what led to the mushrooming of these industries in India? How did it start happening? What was the take of the colonial government? What were their rules and regulations? And what were the limitations for Indians? Was it helpful? Was it paving a way for an industrial modern India now? All of that, let's understand now in today's session. Okay? बच्चे सैम्पल पेपर का सेशन मैंने करा दिया है. सैम्पल पेपर प्रैक्टिस सेशन वी हैव डन ओवर 3 सेशंस ऑलमोस्ट लाइक अ मंथ एंड अ हाफ बैक. 1.5 महीने पहले लगभग सितंबर एंड में हमने कर लिया है. तो आप ज़रूर जाकर के पीछे वो वीडियो देख लीजिएगा. एंड गोइंग फॉरवर्ड विल ऑल्सो बी प्रैक्टिसिंग मोर पेपर्स वंस वी आर डन विद द सिलेबस विच विल बी बाय मिड ऑफ डिसम्बर एट मैक्स. ठीक है सुजीत? ओके. 1664 के around, Ruchita. That's the very first time, around that time when they had come, 1660s के around, just for the purpose of trading. But if you talk about the rule, the first time that they won was the Battle of Plassey in 1757. After that, they started controlling Bengal wala region and then slowly started spreading their control and rule over the entire nation. Now, establishment of initial factories in India. So, as we know, first cotton mill was set up in Bombay. Which year was it? Now, this is an information which is useful not for just this chapter, but also manufacturing of industries. May this is also mentioned. 1854 was basically the first time we had set up the factory. It was ready to get started, and after all the details and all the other management that was required to develop this, in 1856, which is after 2 years, it was fully functional to start the production and it started producing the goods. By 1862, 4 more mills were there. Okay, 4 mills in overall were there, like 3 more mills came up with 94,000 spindles and 2,150 looms. So that is how industrialization scaled up in India. Jute mills also came first in 1855 and another in 1862 in India. ठीक है, तो ये बंगाल रीजन में आया था जूट मिल, बिकॉज guys back at that time especially you will observe that the mills were coming up where raw materials were easily available and also labor availability was there. So Gujarat and Maharashtra are two places where cotton grows in abundance because of the black soil. So jute textile, sorry, not jute, textile industries you'll find springing up, being present in that region. Jute was something Bangladesh back at time was a part of India only. So jute was something that was very primarily found in the West Bengal and that Bengal region because of the whole water being present. Jute पानी वाली जगह पे ही grow करता है बढ़िया, वहीं पे manufacture किया जाता है. तो वहाँ पे you will find those industries coming up. ठीक है. Elgin Mill is another mill which was opened in Kanpur in 1860s. First cotton mill in Ahmedabad was opened in 1861. ठीक है, तो अगेन गुजरात में, यूपी में देख पा रहे हैं हम. द फर्स्ट स्पिनिंग एंड वीविंग मिल इन मद्रास बिगैन प्रोडक्शन इन 1874. So in a span of 10-15 years, you'll see a lot of industries started coming up and springing up, and full on industrialization started happening. It was of course not at that scale as that of England or France or US, but India had started seeing the face and the phase of industrialization. Many Indian entrepreneurs initially engaged in the opium and tea trade with China. So how did our businessmen used to do business? When you talk about the capitalists, when you talk about the entrepreneurs, who are entrepreneurs? People who have their own startups in today's date, right? Startup culture जिसे कहते हैं, अब startup बहुत common term है, but basically people who own their own business. So people would earlier basically trade in products, agricultural products primarily. So these were raw materials or maybe some manufactured materials like opium. Opium was used, opium is basically a plant. ठीक है, एक plant होता है, उसके अलग अलग material से you can obtain different things. अफीम भी कहते हैं इसे. It is used in production of medicines, certain medicines which helps in treatment of a lot of things. So and especially for pain as like painkillers, it helps subside the pain. So medicinal use बहुत थे, so it was very high in demand. So China के साथ we used to trade a lot. Tea production that we would do was very high in demand, like China, Europe, all these places. So we would trade all of these things being produced. That is what was the primary business of our businessmen. Because back at that time, industrialization, opening of factories had not really happened at that scale, was not so famous. Dwarkanath Tagore in Bengal made his fortune, made the money in the China trade before investing in industries. So before industries started coming in, before it felt like it was the right time to open industries in India, what they were doing was trading all of these things like opium, tea, sometimes spices, sometimes indigo, ऐसे अलग-अलग चीज़ों को जिनको हम cash crop भी कह सकते हैं, what we can also address as cash crop, was being traded by these people. Then they had good money. These were the rich businessmen back at that time, even during the Britishers. ठीक है? So then they realized that we have good amount of money, we can even open industries. So Parsis like Dinshaw Petit and Jamshedji Nusarwanji Tata. So the Tata company that has, you can see it, where its root goes back into. In Bombay, they built industrial empires from China trade and cotton shipments. So what they used to do was, these were the people who were back in Bombay but came from riches or built certain amount of richness, certain amount of wealth, so to say. They would do a lot of trading. In fact, Jamshedji Tata even used to travel to China back at that time, go crack deals, have certain, exchanges and agreements with the Chinese businessmen. And from there, the flow of trade and exchange of money would happen for him. So people like them, they had very, very strong lines and connections set with countries like China, where proper trade network was built. तो यहाँ पे ये लोग बढ़िया अपनी ट्रेडिंग करते थे. ठीक है, इशाल, हाय, वेलकम. So now let's quickly answer this question. Where was the first successful cotton mill established in India? 1854 में जो सबसे पहला मिल स्टैब्लिश होता है वो कहाँ पे होता है? कानपुर, शोलापुर, बॉम्बे और मद्रास. Which place was the very first successful cotton mill established in India? Kanpur, Sholapur, Bombay, Madras. Guys, do try and remember the dates of at least 2-3 mills. For example, the first cotton mill, the first jute mill, where it happened. Some data you'll require. These are also informations which will be useful in our chapter of manufacturing industries. Because when you're supposed to write, for example, a question comes about how did industrialization progress in India, or what was the graph, shed a light on how industrialization developed, how it affected the lives. You'll have to give this introduction. There the dates will kind of matter because it will show since when industrialization started in India. Okay, let's see. So student has answered absolutely correct, perfect timing, good job. Ruchita ने भी सही जवाब दे दिया है. Agastya and Govind have also answered. Excuse me, you guys. Agastya and Govind have also answered correctly. They have taken a little extra time, but the answer is correct. Good job. I'm waiting for Karan and Sanskriti to answer. And the correct answer is which year? Guys, which year? Mamta कौन से साल हुआ था establish? आपको पता है? Ishal, Sujit, which year was it? It was 1854 and the place was... Okay, Karan has also answered in perfect timing. I'm sorry, my bad. Arshad Ali, आपने नहीं दिया जवाब. Bombay, 1854, right? Hi, Arshad. Welcome to the session. Okay, guys, so the first cotton mill was established in India. So, however, this is a very interesting fact which you may not find in other places otherwise, but it was not the first attempt. An attempt in 1818 was already taken, 1818 में, which is almost like 30 years before, 35 years before. ठीक है, 30-35 साल पहले 1818 में हमने कोलकाता में एक इंडस्ट्री डालने की कोशिश करी थी, but it was not successful. The first successful attempt happened in 1884 by Kovas ji, Nana Bhai, which was in Bombay, spinning and weaving company, which was set up in Bombay. ठीक है. Now, Seth Hukum Chand, who was a Marwari, set up the first Indian jute mill in Calcutta in 1917 and also traded with China. He was also trading otherwise, right? Some merchants from Madras traded with Burma and had links with the Middle East and East Africa. So, these are a lot of facts that you will have to remember. So, jute industry kisne set ki, where was it set up, which year was it set up? And remember, all of these people were earlier trading with China. That's like a common and a constant thing. ये common है, ठीक है. उसके अलावा और भी businessmen थे. So, normally when we think of colonial government, it might come to your mind कि ऐसा होता है, आप लोगों को लगता है that maybe there were no people who were trading, maybe there were no rich people in India, people were not able to establish, people were not having their own networks. Do you feel like that? Hi Sanskriti, yes, where were you all these days? Absolutely correct, Mamta. 1854 was the year. ऐसा लगता है आप लोग को, do you guys ever think like that? Do you ever feel like that, the way we see things? If you do, then let me tell you, even back at that time, if you've seen series like Rocket Boys, or if you've seen the Gandhi movie, it shows lives of the elites of that time of India. People who were going to abroad, right? People who were going to different countries to study back at that time, guys. Of course, it was not possible for any individual back at that time to go ahead and start studying in different nations, especially England, right? So what happened was, there were people who were into business, who were into trading, who had generationally done that, or maybe before or during the colonial period also kept on having their network of business. So Jawaharlal Nehru ki family bhi came from kind of money only. They were literate, right? Gandhi ji ke papa lawyer थे, पढ़े लिखे लोग, ऐसे कई सारे लोग थे, lawyers जो हो गए या फिर businessmen जो हो गए. ठीक है, सारा भाई, विक्रम सारा भाई के बारे में जब आप पढ़ते हो, his father had a mill, he had a factory. So there were Jamshedji Tata, the Tatas were existing back at that time itself, right? Hi Aryan. Hi Hacker. Good evening, welcome to the session. So there were merchants, जो तमिलनाडु की अगर बात करें, मद्रास में, the present Chennai, they were trading with Burma. Burma is Myanmar. So there were people who were trading with other Asian countries. Myanmar se trading chal rahi hai, China se trading chal rahi hai, and had links with Middle East and East Africa also. So if you look at India's map, guys, through sea we see a lot of through the ports people were connected. That is why we were saying that 3 places, Masulipattnam, Hooghly and Surat, these 3 ports were pretty developed. That is why the Britishers wanted to kill it and develop new things. So they developed a port at Bombay and Bengal eventually later on. Calcutta ka port उन्होंने अपने control में कर लिया. But others and other families, other Indians were trading through these and they were prosperous. Right? Hi Himanshu, good evening. Some commercial groups operated within India, later investing in industries. So there were proper companies existing even back at that time. And when they became rich, they had their own trading connections, which they made money out of, जहाँ से उनके पैसे बनते थे. फिर वही पैसे उन्होंने धीरे धीरे इंडस्ट्रीज में लगाए, because that's what they saw, that in the Western world industrialization is happening. Britishers are trying to bring their industrial goods and dump into the Indian market. Why should we not start? One answer to that question was the colonial government would not let people start. But yeah, they eventually grew and found their ground and did put their feet over there and developed something stronger over there. ठीक है, हाय अर्शद, मैंने आपका नाम पढ़ लिया, बच्चे आपको हाय भी बोल दिया है. ठीक है, हाय समत. Now European agencies की अगर बात की जाए, if you talk about the European agencies, interestingly, European managed agencies like the Bird Hegglers and company, Andrew Yule and the Jardine Skinner and company, they controlled a significant portion of Indian industries. So we can't say that industries were not set up, and also we cannot say that all the industries that were set up belong to the Indians. Very interestingly, even when industries and manufacturing, manufacturing units were set up in India, the control and ownership of that was given back to Europe. ठीक है, बैक टू द पेरेंट कंट्री ऑफ द ब्रिटिशर्स, ऑफ आवर कॉलोनियल गवर्नमेंट. वो अगर इंडिया में कुछ आपका ट्रेड कर भी रहे, कुछ मैन्युफैक्चर कर भी रहे, तो उसकी जो बागडोर है वो उन्होंने किसको दे रखी थी? उसकी बागडोर उन्होंने दे रखी थी यूरोप, बैक इन देयर पेरेंट नेशन, कि आप कंट्रोल करो. बिकॉज whoever owns it, whoever controls it ultimately makes the money and takes the profit. Right? Roll number 55. So they mobilized capital, set up joint stock companies and made investment and business decisions. So there were companies that were working, there were industries that were working, but the ownership was with the European companies like these, like Andrew Yule, like Jardine Skinner, like Bird Hegglers. ठीक है, इनके पास रहता था पूरा ownership. They would do the production in India. They would trade from India the products that they had produced. They would make money from India but not really contribute into the Indian economy, but take it all to England and to their European nation. तो इसको क्या कहते हैं हम? ये जो पूरा प्रोसेस था ना, इसको इकोनॉमी ड्रेन कहते हैं. What do you mean by economy drain? So there are a lot of observations that you can make from here. When so many industries were there, when there were certain Indian industrialists, but ठीक है, maybe not just with them, but there were a lot of other industries also set up. When there were so many companies putting their hands in the industries in India, why were we not making money? Because all this money that was made would go to these owners back to England, back to other Europe, France, जहाँ से भी, जो भी यूरोपियन देश से, जहाँ से भी रूट से आ रहे थे, बेसिकली इंग्लैंड के ही थे, ठीक है, वो वहाँ लेके जाते थे. तो क्या होता था? द मनी विच वॉज टेक्निकली ऑफ इंडिया, बिकॉज रॉ मटीरियल इन इंडिया, लेबर इन इंडिया, कंपनी इन इंडिया, द प्रॉफिट शुड कम टू इंडिया बट द प्रॉफिट वुड गो टू इंग्लैंड. तो ऐसे इकोनॉमी ड्रेन हो रही थी, हमारा पैसा बहा दे रहे थे इंग्लैंड. ठीक है, so they mobilized the capital, they moved the money. Mobilizing capital means moving the money, exchanging the money. They would set up the stock companies, they would make investment. It's not like they were not putting the money, but when you put money you make profit out of it. Investment क्या होता है? Investment is putting in money to make some profit out of the thing that you're putting your money into, right? तो जो भी पैसा लगा करके पैसा बनाते थे वो सब लेके चले जाते थे वहाँ पे. ठीक है, why colonial government did not give permission to Indians to establish their business? Even they were taking high taxes. But if Indians would have started, establishing their own industries, if Indians would have started creating their own work, then they would have started becoming more independent, more powerful. Always remember, when you are educated, when you are employed, you are informed, you have access to a lot of things, a lot of resources, you're not dependent, and you tend to become independent and powerful. Britishers couldn't have let the Indian society get powerful, because the day most of the Indians would have gone there, Britishers would have been pushed out of the country. तो उनको सबको दबा के रखना बहुत ज़रूरी था. और अगर इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट सुभरने लगते बहुत सारे, और जो टैक्सेस देते रहते बट कहते कि हम आ रहे हैं, हम सब कंट्रोल करेंगे, तो फिर ब्रिटिशर्स ज़्यादा दिन टिक नहीं पाते. सो इट वॉज इम्पॉर्टेंट फॉर देम to keep everyone and everything under their thumb, right? Hi Aditya. Now, as the Britishers tightened their control over Indian trade, Indian merchants had fewer opportunities. So, as we are saying that not everyone could even get their paths along, right? Everyone could not even make their paths stronger as, let's say, Jamshedji Tata or some other people that we are reading about, Nana Bhai. ये कुछ लोगों ने ब्रिटिशर्स के साथ थोड़ी दोस्ती करके, थोड़े टैक्सेस पे करके, थोड़े अच्छे रिलेशन बना करके इंडस्ट्री सेट की, इंडियंस को एम्प्लॉय किया, बहुत कुछ चलाया, ठीक है. बट दे ऑल्सो फेस्ड अ लॉट ऑफ हार्डशिप्स, दे ऑल्सो फेस्ड अ लॉट ऑफ ह्यूमिलिएशन, बट इट वॉज नॉट अंडर एवरीबडीज कंट्रोल that, okay, fine, if I don't have a lot of money, still I can go ahead and put up a factory by taking the loan and figure it out. People did not have that accessibility and that feasibility. That flexibility was not there. ठीक है. तो अब क्या कर रहे हैं? Britishers further started tightening their control when they saw. ठीक है. As I said, it's all about relationship building. कुछ लोग बहुत वक्त से, even before the Britishers came here, there were a lot of businessmen who were already established. Even Britishers needed to make friends, right? सबको against कर दोगे तो कैसे टिकोगे? तो थोड़ा कहीं कहीं पे कुछ लोग इतने पावरफुल पहले से थे कि वो अपने लिए कुछ ना कुछ क्रिएट कर लेते, तो ब्रिटिशर्स ने उनको करने दिया, कुछ जगह चलते गए. प्लस इफ दे वुड हैव लेट नोबडी डू एनी जॉब, दे वुड हैव आल्सो नॉट रिसीव्ड एनी टैक्सेस, एनी मनी. ठीक है. तो ब्रिटिशर्स हाउएवर डिड कंट्रोल. They started putting such litigations, such you can say rules, regulations, limitations over the traders that not everyone had a lot of opportunities. पहले जितनी freely लोग trade कर पा रहे थे under the colonial rule, under the new rules and regulations, it did get difficult for them. They weren't sure if they will be able to carry forward in the similar way. They could only export raw materials like cotton, opium, wheat, indigo to Europe. And they were also pushed out of the shipping business. So you see what is happening. See, one thing is producing something and selling that to the other countries. That is what these productions are. So दो चीजें लग रही हैं. एक तो वो कह रहे हैं कि तुम सिर्फ क्या प्रोड्यूस करोगे? रॉ मटेरियल प्रोड्यूस करोगे. You will not really manufacture these raw materials. If you want to trade, then produce the raw materials and sell it. Don't manufacture it, because the moment you manufacture it, you make more money, and they didn't want Indians to make money. They wanted to seize that opportunity for themselves. जहाँ मौका लग रहा है, wherever they find an opportunity, they will not let Indians have it, but snatch it away from the Indians. उनसे छीन लेंगे. एक तो ये चीज़ की. दूसरा बोला कि आप सिर्फ और सिर्फ यूरोप को भेजोगे. ऐसा नहीं है कि जिससे मनाया ट्रेडिंग किया. Whoever you wish to trade with, you start trading with them. No, you only trade with the countries we permit you to. So Britishers were controlling each and every element. Maybe China was a better buyer. Maybe there was another country which was a better buyer, which was giving you more money. But what they would do is, they would create a monopoly. They would say, कि नहीं सिर्फ England, सिर्फ ये country, सिर्फ ये जगह, this is where you will trade, so that they could control those prices. And that they were doing with their allies and their own country. तो सिर्फ जो उनके दोस्त यार वाले देश थे, ठीक है, जो उनका अपना देश था, वहाँ पे रॉ मटेरियल भेजने देते थे. Where from industries, they would take the manufacturing goods at low taxes and spread it in Indian market. And they were also pushed out of shipping business. Now another thing, what happens when you have manufactured the raw material or maybe manufactured the good, that is what a producer does. एक production करने वाले का काम ये होता है. उसके बाद somebody else takes care of the transition. इसीलिए ट्रांसपोर्ट का बिजनेस अलग होता है. दैट इज व्हाई द बिजनेस ऑफ ट्रांसपोर्ट इज डिफरेंट. नाउ ट्रांसपोर्टेशन इज व्हाट डिड नॉट हैव अ लॉट ऑफ रूल्स एंड रेस्ट्रिक्शंस बैक एट दैट टाइम. प्रोडक्शन हैड, बट दे सेड नहीं, ट्रांसपोर्टेशन में यू विल बी ट्रांसपोर्टिंग वेयर एवर यू वांट टू, व्हाटएवर यू वांट टू. ट्रांसपोर्टेशन मेक्स अ लॉट ऑफ मनी, सो वी विल नॉट लेट यू डू दैट. We will control everything. ठीक है. Monopoly means that only one person, only one entity has the rights of controlling everything. Nobody else can enter. So Britishers had taken the rights just for themselves, reserved everything just for themselves, and so many things. For example, in India, the salt production that was happening, we have seen, right? They had monopolized that, which means no Indian, no other country, nobody could produce salt or sell salt in India except for Britishers. Only they had the rights to do that. Okay. Okay, European managing industries. Then if you talk about Indian finances, now guys, of course there were banking systems requires. Now banking system back at that time did not used to exist and look like how it does today, that you have 10 banks and you go for loan, because when you're trading, when you're doing business, you will need good amount of money, right? Hi Aditya Kumar Singh, good evening. आपको पैसे चाहिए होते हैं. You need to borrow the loan from the bank, maybe pay some interest to them and use that money to flourish your trade or scale up your production, do whatever you're doing with that extra money, grow and develop and then give it back to them. So earlier it was basically people who were acting as bankers. पहले बैंक एक organization, एक company, एक entity नहीं होती थी. It did not used to exist as an institution. It used to exist as a person. I am a person who's rich. I am a person who has good amount of money. Instead of putting it anywhere, I will give it to you on a certain interest amount. And you give it back to me. So people were acting as financiers, right? Aditya, hi Rajat. Aditya, Rajat Kumar, good evening, no spamming. So Indian finances often provided the capital, but European agencies kept control. So normally this money transitioning that was happening earlier was not really kept under control. लोग बिंदास जिसको पैसा देना है, जैसे grow करना है, जितना interest लेना है, जितना पैसा बनाना है. Now these agencies started controlling even that. अब वो banks को भी एक तरीके से समझो, जो बैंक वाले लोग थे, उनको भी control में रखने लग गई. European merchant industrialists had exclusive chambers of commerce, excluding Indian businessmen. So, bache, in simplest word, if I have to explain this, every large scale occupation has a council, kind of a union. For example, how we have the cricket council who makes all the decision related to cricket, how it will be done in India, what Indian players are going to do, what they're allowed to do, what they're not allowed to do, some rules, regulations, formation. So similarly, there is a commerce council also. Bade businessmen ka, especially the big, large scale businesses, all those businessmen come together and form a council so that they can easily discuss about the rules, the regulations, the flow, the limitations, the flow of money, the flow of trade. So they had created such councils. But these councils were always dominated by the Europeans. Indians were not made a part of it. Indians को उसका हिस्सा बनाया नहीं था. Very much later in 1914 and 1917, 1917 and 1921 के around we have seen, right, FICCI, all of these councils were established. That was primarily of Indians. उसके पहले whatever was there before that, nationalism in India में we have read about it. Before that, whatever chambers of commerce, whatever these meetings, these assemblies of commerce people, traders, businessmen was there, Indians were not brought into it. Okay, so that brings us to the next question. Who among the following were early Indian entrepreneurs? Dinshaw Petit, Seth, Hukumchand, G.D. Birla, or all of the above? Who among the following were early Indian entrepreneurs? Early Indian entrepreneurs, early Indian businessmen पूछा गया है. Hi Pratham, good evening. Himanshu जवाब दे दिया है. Let's see who all have answered. Karan and Ruchita have answered absolutely correct. Perfect timing. हमारे पास गोविंद का जवाब आया है. I think Prakhar has also taken an attempt. Agastya, Himanshu, Ruhan and Sanskriti have taken an attempt. But it seems, Hacker, I'm waiting for you to answer. But काफी confused हो गए. All of the above, guys. All of these were, we have read G.D. Birla and nationalism in India. Dinshaw Petit तो अभी हमने पढ़ा है. सेठ हुकुमचंद का भी नाम हमने पढ़ा, ये सारे नाम हमने पढ़े यार, ऐसा कंफ्यूज मत हो जाओ तुम लोग, ठीक है. सो लॉट ऑफ entrepreneurs were setting up factories. There were Parsis like Dinshaw Patti, Jamshedji Tata, Seth Hukumchand, G.D. Birla, who were Rajasthani businessmen, who were people from Gujarat, Rajasthan, all of these places who were setting up. ठीक है. क्विज ज्वाइन करने के लिए प्रथम एम्बाइब के ऐप पे जाना है, वहाँ पे जो क्लास चल रही है उसको ज्वाइन करना है, तो फिर आप ये क्विजेज अटेम्प्ट कर पाओगे. ठीक है. एम्बाइब की वेबसाइट पे भी जा सकते हो, वहाँ पे सेलेक्ट योर गोल एज 10th CBSE and on the home page under Imbibe Live classes you'll find all these classes listed. Now what were the conditions of the workers, how were they working in the Indian factories? Because we know that a lot of factories were not there, so how did it work? The number of factory workers increased significantly over time. See, it's very simple. When industrialization started happening, there were opportunities created. So slowly, more and more people came and more opportunities were created. So more and more people started getting the jobs and getting the opportunities, right? In 1901, there were 5,84,000 workers in Indian factories, which grew. So 1901 में, मतलब beginning of 20th century, 5.5-6 lakh, around 6 lakh workers were there. In the next 45 years, exactly 45 years में बच्चों, that grew from 6 lakhs to 24 lakhs 36,000. So you can see it went 4 times. So every year, one time, it was doubling up. It was getting double. So it went to 24 lakhs 36,000, almost 25 lakhs. 6 लाख से 25 लाख वर्कर्स जो है 40-45 सालों में अब फैक्ट्रीज में एम्प्लॉयड हो गए थे. They mostly came from districts surrounding the industrial regions. So industries were maybe established in Bombay, maybe in you can say Calcutta, but it was not in the city center. It was somewhere around sides of the city because you would need that area, you would need that land. So all the people who were in and around that industries or who had come and started staying in and around that industries, primarily those people you would find working in these industries. ज़्यादातर ये सारे लोग आपको वहाँ पे काम करते दिखाई देते थे. Peasants, artisans who could not find work in villages, they started moving. So what is happening now? Migration. Typically how industrialization happens. So we can see urbanization happens. So we can see with industrialization, it had also set up the pace for urbanization in India, which means factories were set up, it created opportunities, it created jobs. People like peasants and artisans who did not have jobs back in their villages, who were out of the options of occupation that they used to practice before the Britishers, before the colonial rule. Artisans क्या करते थे? They would make a lot of handicraft stuff, which the rulers and their people would buy back at that time. Once the colonial rulers came in, rulers monarchy का concept भी खत्म हो गया. वो जो ये सारे इंडियन हैंडीक्राफ्ट और हेरिटेज से रिलेटेड कल्चरल चीज़ों को खरीदते थे वो भी खत्म हो गया. So they were out of their jobs. Whatever they were producing was not being bought by anyone. कोई खरीद ही नहीं रहा था इन चीज़ों को अब. So now they basically had no proper means of earning. When they heard about these industries coming in, jobs being created, they started migrating. है ना? क्या करने लग गए? Migrate करने लग गए, move करने लग गए. They started migrating from village to cities. शहरों की तरफ बढ़ने लग जाते हैं. Workers often moved between villages and cities, returning home during harvests and festivals. Because these were mostly the farmers. कुछ artisans भी थे, but ज़्यादातर farmers थे. Farmers के साथ क्या problem थी? Farmers were paying a lot of taxes. So you have to form connection. What we have read in nationalism in India, what we have read in this chapter, start connecting everything. We know that there were a lot of taxes and revenues that had to be paid by the farmers, right? When they were cultivating the land. And because of that, they were hardly able to make their livelihood. They were hardly able to make profits. Plus, they had a lot of loans on top of that so many times on their head. And if the loans were not paid off, their land would be snatched away from them. So they would keep cultivating. They would leave their family members to primarily look after the cultivation, to look after the harvest. जो भी खेती बाड़ी की है उसको वहाँ पे छोड़ देते थे अपने परिवार को वहाँ देखने के लिए. They would move to cities and also work as workers over there for some additional income, which would primarily help them. And यहाँ पे जब हार्वेस्ट का टाइम आता था, जब आपका हार्वेस्ट रेडी हो जाता था, when whatever they had grown would ripen, they would come back to harvest it. By that time they would have earned some additional money which would have supported them. ठीक है, तो ऐसे करके अपना खर्चा चलाते थे. फेस्टिवल्स के टाइम वापस जाते थे. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, आई एम अ माइग्रेटेड वर्कर, राइट? I do not stay where I was staying earlier. I don't stay with my parents. I stay here for my job. So I go back when it's Diwali. I go back when it's Dussehra. Whatever festival I have, during the festivals I visit my family and then I come back here. So it was similarly for them. ठीक है? आदित्य फोकस कर ले थोड़ा पढ़ाई पे. एक इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन का सवाल पूछूं मैं आपसे, आप दे दोगे जवाब? Industrialists often employed jobbers to recruit new workers. Now understand what was the deal with this. All of a sudden there was a lot of influx. Okay, sorry, over here I was also telling you that these were mostly these people. Now they would, whenever they would hear about the jobs being created, अपने गाँव से उठ करके ये क्या करते थे, शहर चले जाते थे. They would move to the cities. Now slowly a lot of people started coming in. So as people started coming in, development started happening. They started building roads and buildings and hospitals and insurance companies and banks and schools. और ऐसे करके शहर डेवलप करते चले गए. That is why these points where the industries were set up at that time, even in today's days, are like the metropolitan, like the most developed cosmopolitan cities. ठीक है, तो अर्बनाइजेशन हो गया, इंडस्ट्रीज आई, इंडस्ट्रीज की वजह से एक जो है सिटी क्रिएट होने लग गया, सिटी वाला सेटअप क्रिएट होने लग गया, डेवलपमेंट होने लग गया. Now when such influx of workers were happening, ठीक है, provinces मतलब back at that time आप समझ लो states. ठीक है रुचिता, it was kind of states back at that time. Okay, अभी उस समय क्या था, you had the Bombay province, you had the Madras province, you had the Bengal province, but these provinces were huge. तो ये बेसिकली स्टेट्स थे उस वक्त के. अभी वो स्टेट्स उस तरीके से नहीं है. ठीक है, व्हाट इज मेट्रोपॉलिटन एंड कॉस्मोपॉलिटन? You find that meaning in the dictionary. Okay, we'll focus over here. Metropolitan is basically where technology is there, metros, cities, जहाँ metro चलती हैं. ठीक है, तो ऐसे जो developed cities, industrialized cities है. Cosmopolitan, where there is a heterogeneous culture, where people from all kind of ethnicities come together, merge together, stay together. It's a developed place, open-minded space. That's cosmopolitan. ठीक है. Now industrialists, guys, basically a lot of influx was happening. है ना, एकदम से बहुत सारे वर्कर्स जो है वो आ रहे थे. लॉट ऑफ वर्कर्स वर कमिंग. नाउ इट वाज अगेन गोइंग टू बी अ सिमिलर सीन लाइक व्हाट हैड हैपेंड इन ब्रिटेन. When industrialization had started happening, a lot of people from villages had moved to the cities in search of jobs. And because so many people had moved, opportunities were not enough. इतने jobs नहीं थे कि सबको नौकरी मिल जाती. So what used to happen? They used to find their friends and their family members or somebody that they know. ठीक है, कि कोई ऐसा मिल जाए यार कि मेरे गांव का हो, मेरे पहचान का हो, मेरा दूर का रिश्तेदार है. And they would go to them and be like, hey, please get me employed in this place, right? Similarly in India, what happened? A lot of people were coming to take jobs. Now everyone is putting their applications. सब अपना अपना नाम दे रहे हैं. How do you as an industrialist, how do you as a company know किसको लेना है? And it was such a hectic thing. You would have to see what skill was required, who was a fit, who was not a fit. So they thought that instead of just randomly taking people and going through, influx means incoming. ठीक है, guys, general English words, use dictionary. If you keep on asking these word meanings from me, it will keep on breaking the flow of my explanation. You will get in trouble when you rewatch this session while your preparation. उसमें बीच में मैं word meanings बता रही हूँगी. ठीक है. So as I was telling you, now because so many people have come, even the companies are overwhelmed. उनको समझ नहीं आ रहा है. They're not able to understand how do we choose who we have to pick, who do we give the jobs to, what do we do? Arshad, can you see? That's what I'm explaining. Hold on, I'll tell you. So then they thought that why don't we appoint a person who takes care of the jobs of other people, a person who has been working in our company for a long period of time, a person that we trust, a person that we feel has the skill, right? ऐसे इंसान को हम अपॉइंट कर देते. लेट्स अपॉइंट somebody like that. So industrialists often employed these jobbers, which were basically their old employees, people who were already working. ठीक है, old employee होते थे ये, that were trusted, that were experienced, who were already working with these factories. What was their jobs? So as I told you, they were the trusted and experienced workers. Now, when such an inflow of workers is happening, when so many people are coming to take jobs, you wouldn't be able to understand that who should we give the job to. So in a way, the work that HR does today, the jobbers used to do back at that time, giving employment to people, figuring out who is a perfect fit, who will be able to do the correct job. So jobbers started doing, employing people, taking kind of interviews, going through all the applications, but it was at a worker level. So it was not so professional. It did not go like this. Basically क्या करने लगे, जितने लोगों ने अपनी एप्लीकेशन डाली, जितने लोगों ने कहा हमें काम चाहिए, उनको फिल्टर करने लगे, उनको जांचने लगे इस काम के लिए कौन ठीक होगा, किसके पास क्या स्किल है. एंड बिकॉज दे वर ट्रस्टेड बाय द कंपनी, दे वुड टेक द कॉल किसको काम देना है, किसको नहीं देना है, हु शुड बी गेटिंग द जॉब, हु शुड नॉट बी गेटिंग द जॉब. सो नॉर्मली गाइज एंड स्पेशली इंडिया है यार, इंडिया में social connection, family relation matters a lot. People do give a lot of preferences to your relatives, to your friends, people you know, right? So they would normally favor the people that were known to them, people from their villages, people in their distance relationship. Okay? They would call them, make them settle in the city, provide some financial assistance also during the time they were settling and did not have the money. If I don't have a job, I'm going to a city for a job, and somebody who's in my relation or who's from my village is the jobber over there. So they tell me, ki, hey, you come here, in next 20 days, I have to get somebody to do this job. I will give this job to you. But maybe instead of 20, it took 40 days. So in those 40 days, I don't have a job. I don't have enough money to settle in the city to find a home. So they will even give financial help, and ultimately they would give jobs to their relatives, to the people they know. Okay? But in return, they would get some favors. Bribe जैसा समझ सकते हो, kind of a bribe. ठीक है, थोड़ा सा रिश्वत जैसा लेना जैसा कह सकते हैं कि okay, I have given the job to you. Why don't you give me gifts? Why don't you do this work for me? ठीक है, so they gained authority because they are the people who are giving the jobs. So the people who need the job, जिन लोगों को काम की तलाश है, they would want to please them. वो चाहेंगे कि यार जॉबर को पटा के रखे, उसको please करके रखे. ठीक है. So jobbers, because of that, had certain power, they had certain control. So now they would demand money, gifts for in return of the job that they were offering to these people. अगर किसी को नौकरी दे रहे हैं तो बदले में पैसे, गिफ्ट, कपड़े, ऐसे चीजें लेते थे. ठीक है, चलो नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन. Who among the following was tasked with recruiting new वर्कर्स? किसको काम दिया गया था नए वर्कर्स को काम पे रखने के लिए? ये टास्क किसका था, किसकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी थी? पेजेंट्स की, एंटरप्रेन्योर्स की, जॉबर्स की, या फिर इन सब की? Who among the following was asked to recruit people when there were so many applications for the working profile to choose who will work in the company? Peasants, entrepreneurs, jobbers, or all of these? It's quite simple, you guys. So we have been talking this entire time about this person, so I think you guys should be able to guess it right. Arshad and Aryan, perfect answer, absolute perfect timing, good job. Prakhar, Pratham, Sanskriti, student and hacker have also answered correctly. Wonderful, you guys. रुचिता ने भी अटेम्प्ट लिया है. अगस्त्य, गोविंद, हिमांशु, लक्ष्य, क्या हो गया भाई? अटेम्प्ट लेकर के देखो, जस्ट ट्राई. Peasants, entrepreneurs, jobbers, or all of these? So the job of giving the jobs to the people was of the jobber. कौन था? जॉबर था, जिसका काम था ये. तो अगस्त्य और गोविंद का भी जवाब आ गया, बिल्कुल सही, गुड जॉब. इट वाज द जॉब ऑफ द जॉबर, राइट? करण हैज आल्सो आंसर्ड इन परफेक्ट टाइमिंग, गुड जॉब. बहुत ज़्यादा बार जॉब एक ही स्टेटमेंट में हो जा रहा है. ओके, anyway, so it was jobbers who were trusted and experienced workers of the factories and they were given the responsibility to choose the new employees. ठीक है? नहीं रुचिता, अभी हम जॉबर्स के बारे में पढ़ रहे हैं ना. एंटरप्रेन्योर्स, द पीपल हु वर द बिजनेसमैन, दे डिड नॉट यूज टू गो एंड अपॉइंट वर्कर्स. इट्स अ होल फैक्ट्री ओनर. दे विल नॉट गो एंड सी हु इज द लेबर, हु इज द वर्कर. द जॉबर वॉज गिवन दिस जॉब बिकॉज सो मेनी पीपल वर अप्लाइंग. Entrepreneurs at this point was not doing that. Okay, Now, urbanization in 19th century of Bombay. So, as factories started growing, we have understood, right? We have already spoken that how industries were growing, more people were moving. So, a city, an urban area was forming. Workers were moving from villages to these places for employment. When they moved, they would only go back to their houses for specific seasons. But anyways, when they moved, the whole development started happening and the city started building. Jobbers, they played a very important role in recruiting, giving jobs in the lives of the workers. Factory workers constituted a small proportion of the total industrial workforce. So, there were a lot of people who were working. Okay? Yes, Pratham, I think it is. Is it not? Factory workers, so factory mein there were like a lot of people who doing different kind of jobs, right? Hi, Alex Aro. Absolutely correct. Sonali, hi, good evening. You might think that the workers were the major section, but they were not. They were only a small group, only a small proportion. There were a lot of other kind of profiles, managers and a lot of other things also that was for the people. Okay, finally, workers often traveled from villages to the cities and industrial centers in search of education. Is this correct or is this wrong? ये true है या false है? Workers जो है वो पढ़ाई करने के लिए अपने गांव से शहर जाते थे और इंडस्ट्रीज के पास जाते थे. वेरी सिंपल क्वेश्चन या वेरी सिंपल क्वेश्चन. Workers often travel from villages to cities and industrial centers in search of education. Is this true or is this false? Agastya Aryan Pratham, good job. Correct answer, perfect timing. Govind Prakhar, Sanskriti student, have also answered correctly. Arshad ne bhi attempt liya hai. This statement is false, you guys, because they were going there for work, not for jobs. Karan has also answered correctly, perfect timing. Govind Prakhar, Ruchita, Sanskriti student, good job. They were moving there in search of jobs. है ना, काम के लिए जा रहे थे, ना कि पढ़ाई करने के लिए. Okay, so with this we have finished today's session of establishment of early factories in India. It started in 19th century. 1854 was the very first factory. Before that, the businessmen over here used to trade with China with stuff like tea, opium, jute. European managed agencies were brought in by the Britishers to control over the Indian industries. Not the entire autonomy and control was given to, the Indian factory owners. The growth of factory workers in India and their origins started. We see that in 1901, where only 6 lakhs people were working as workers. By 1945, somewhat 25 lakh workers had come into the picture. While industrialization were happening, a lot of jobs were being created. So, more than the jobs, people were coming from villages in search of jobs to the cities. So, a trusted, experienced employee of the factory was given the responsibility to give the jobs to these people. These people were known as jobbers, who would usually favor their relatives or friends or people they knew from their villages. But that gave them certain power and authority, in return of which they would ask for money or certain favors or gifts. Urbanization in 19th century Bombay happened because of the industrial expansion, not just in Bombay, in Calcutta and other places also, which is because of the factories coming up. The cities also evolved and grew and developed. Now, India had begun its journey towards industrialization one step at a time. Factories were being set up, jobs were being rolled out, new products of good quality were popping up in the market because industries के साथ अच्छी चीजें produce हो रही थी. Indeed, it was the beginning of a new era, but now doesn't necessarily mean better. Okay? But new doesn't necessarily mean better, right? New products were popping up. But does that mean it was always the best quality, how it was supposed to be? So, what kind of production was happening? Was it good quality or not? Did it make sense or not? All of that we'll understand in the next session. Okay? Oh, Pratham, you're replying over here. Yes. Okay? Okay, guys. So, with this, we have finished today's session. Please remember to register yourself for tomorrow's session. Again, same time, 8 p.m. So, Embibe की school app पे या website पे जाके under the home section, you'll find the Embibe live classes. वहाँ पे आपको register कर लेना है. I'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll see further what happens in the field of industrialization in India. Okay? And do not forget to check out the Embibe lens, and please make sure to connect with us on the Telegram channel. This is the link and this is the QR code. This is one place where I can directly connect with you, update you, give you any announcement that is important and urgent. So please make sure to be a part of it. With this, I'm going to wind up. Thank you so much for being here. It was a very interactive, very fun session. So I enjoyed thoroughly. Students watching on YouTube, if you did, do tell me in the comment section. Do not forget to like, share and subscribe. And you guys make sure to register for tomorrow's session. I'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. Till then, take good care of yourselves. Hasta la vista, bye-bye, ciao. Take rest and take care of your loved ones. I'll see you tomorrow. Stay tuned and keep imbibing.
Keep imbibing. We believe in you.